What's happening, vinyl community? Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you guys are when you're watching this. It's a collection update for you guys, and it's actually coming from a unusual place. It's coming from the beautiful city of Charlotte, North Carolina. And I'm actually here on vacation. It's the first vacation I've had in a couple of years, and I'm enjoying every minute of it. But as to a little backstory as to why I'm here. About 6 to 8 months ago, um, me and a mutual friend of the vinyl community has become a good friend of mine. Chris at Tunes from the Man Cave. We're actually talking about me coming up to Charlotte and just having a good time, doing some digging, trying some new food, etc., etc., etc. And decided to pull the trigger around September last year. Bought the plane tickets and decided on early March of 2022 to come down because the weather's not super hot yet. For those of you that don't live in the South or have spent very limited time in the South, um, I'm a Texas boy. I spent most of my life in Texas. The South gets pretty fucking, pardon my language, it gets pretty hot after about late March, early April. It gets pretty freaking hot. And so we decided on that would be a good time for me to come down. And the ironic thing is, it's kind of been a joke of the weekend. Chris is actually, Tunes from Man Cave is actually going to be posting his video here about this weekend's festivities coming up, and you'll be able to see it. But the ongoing joke for the weekend was that he had been talking about how beautiful Charlotte's weather is, and I came in from Colorado and brought the cold with me. It didn't end up being as bad as we thought it was going to be, but it's been a little bit on the chillier side here. And today it was about 60, 64, 61 degrees. Tomorrow it's supposed to be mid 60s, so it'll be a good last day to go out and dig. But ended up coming in on Thursday night and started my digging on Friday. Got together with Chris and, excuse me, a mutual friend of the vinyl community, Josh, taking the birch, and went out on Saturday, did some digging, and had a really good time. But the stack here is everything I've gotten from the past couple of days, and there might be one other update when I get back to Colorado. But for now, this is everything I've gotten. So without further ado, let's get started. The first one was actually a surprise, and it was a pleasant surprise coming right out of the gate. And it's an album I've been after for a while. This is the Smiths, Queen is Dead. This is the first pressing on Sire Records. It's actually, the place I found this is called the Poet's Vault. It was one that Chris had recommended to me. It's a record store in the back of an antique mall, and I'm leery of antique malls. Generally, most antique malls tend to be the same. Everything's usually either overexpensive or just beat, or a little bit of both. But record store is really cool. Saw this on the wall. Was hoping it was an original pressing. Took it out, looked at it. Not only is it an original pressing, but it's clean, and that was the price I got this at. I can't complain. Great album. It's one of my absolute favorites. I already own my other favorite Smiths album, Mean as Myrrh, which I picked up last year. This will be a good companion to it. So that was a great first day here in the Charlotte area. The next two actually came by way of Lunchbox Records, and while I didn't pick up any used ones, I found a couple awesome new releases. First one, I actually picked up this artist's previous release late last year. So Delvin Lamarr Organ Trio, Cold as Weiss, on Coal Mine Records. It's on ice blue vinyl, colored vinyl. If you follow Dylan at Nova Records, he actually talks about this album a little bit, so you can see what it looks like. This one's sealed, so I'm not going to open it yet. But Delvin Lamarr's awesome stuff. It's just awesome new jazz, and just his stuff is great. And his albums were actually kind of hard to come by for a little bit. The prices actually surprisingly just went kind of crazy for a little bit. So if you can find this one out in the wild, I'd definitely grab it. It's they might do what they did before, and it'll go through a little bit of a price hike. You never know. But looking forward to spinning this one when I get home. This next one's actually a record store day release from last year that I had completely skipped on, and I stumbled on this artist material and really liked what I heard. And unfortunately, by that point, it was too late. But they happen to have a couple of these in the back in their record store day section for previous releases. This is a Nubia Garcia. Source equals our dance. It's just pure. It's just pure new jazz / free jazz. Very very easy to listen to. And I know what if you follow my channel, you know how I feel about free jazz. But this is one of the exceptions. It's a great album, and I absolutely love it. And I'm happy to have this as on vinyl finally. I've had it on my streaming forever. This next one actually came by way of Tip Top Records, which was the last place we stopped on Saturday before we called it quits for the day. I'd actually been looking for this one for a while because apart from my love of music, I also have a really big passion for movies. And I'm a huge fan of Wes Anderson's films. And just like Quentin Tarantino, Wes has a really good ear for the music that he wants to use. And his newest film, The French Dispatch, used a track in the trailer that I was trying to figure out where it came from. Lo and behold, I found it. And I found this one in the bins at Tip Top, and I had to have it. This is Ennio Morricone Malamondo, or an original soundtrack recording, music composed by Ennio Morricone, plus Ken Coleman singing the main theme, Funny World. What's cool about this, on top of the fact it's got the track I was looking for, it's a white label promo, which I was honestly really surprised to see that. Even more so, that it is super, super clean. The track in particular that I bought this for, I'm trying to see if I can find it here without taking too much time. I'm used to the French version of the track, what it's called, but so I can't find it off the top of my head. But it's on this soundtrack. So again, great price. I was super super happy to find this one. So these next two I actually found today. Made a trip up to Durham, North Carolina to see Carolina Soul. Kind of struck out there, unfortunately. Came back with a t-shirt, and then I came back with one album. And while this one is not for me, it's for a member of my family who I know she's going to be absolutely thrilled to get this, because this band is her favorite band of all time. This is the Moody Blues, the Magnificent Moodies. This is a 1970 reissue mono pressing on Decca Records. Super clean. I mean, really, really clean. It shocked me when I pulled out the wax. Moody Blues are a great act. Days of Future Past is I think their undisputed masterpiece, but they've got some great albums. And she already has the self-titled U.S. release that has Go Now on it, which is, I believe, their first #1. But this is one that she didn't have, and while this is a repress, this album, I believe, is either slightly before the U.S. release or basically they were released at the same time. But again, $22, you can't go wrong, especially with the condition. And this next one is actually for the same person. After I left Durham, I stopped by Noble Records briefly on the way back, and did a little bit of digging, didn't stay too long. But I found this in the racks, which I missed on the previous day. I'm kind of annoyed at myself, but managed to rectify that. This is Bob Dylan's self-titled. This is a early 2-eye mono pressing. It's got a couple light paper skips on it, but it plays great. It's got a little bit of a seam split at the top, which I don't think the camera will be able to pick up, but it plays great. And to find these in any kind of decent playable shape is getting harder and harder to find. All his early albums sold really well, but there's more beat ones than there are clean ones. So I was really happy that I was able to find this for her. And again, I know she's going to be really excited to play this. Bob Dylan's right up there with her absolute favorites, and again, I'm really happy I'm going to be able to give this to her and have her enjoy it. This next group is actually everything that I picked up from Noble Records on Saturday when I went on my dig with Chris and Josh. I had built up a bunch of store credit, which I still have quite a bit left over. I've been sending Dylan boxes over the last 6 months to build up some store credit because I didn't want to cut myself short. And I didn't. This first one, he actually dropped a teaser on Friday evening, and I did not expect that it was still going to be in the racks. So lucky me. This is Dennis Wilson, Pacific Ocean Blue. It's an amazing album, and not one that I don't think is that familiar to people. I had the reissue that came out a number of years ago on CD, and I had never thought I'd own an original, but Dylan actually upgraded his copy, so put this one in the shop, and again, I was really happy to get this one. And it's super clean, and yeah, I'm excited to play this one when I get home. This next one is just like Verve Records. I love Impulse. Impulse's catalogs, but and the later stuff tends to be more on the free jazz side, but I still like some of it. This is Archie Shett for Losers. This is an original stereo pressing. Excuse me. I'm not going to pull this out because these sleeves are kind of a pain in the butt to get in and out, but great album. Again, more on the free jazz side. It's right on that edge between 1969, 1968, and 1970, 71. But it's a great album. It's a solid heater you can find for reasonably cheap. This next one I bought primarily for the title track because it's one that I grew up on and I absolutely love the track. It's the Contours, Do You Love Me? Now that I Can Dance. It's just a great track. I don't know what the rest of the album sounds like, but at the price it was a super clean original pressing, and I had to have it. It's one of those songs that just puts a smile on my face, so I was really happy to find this one, and I can't wait to play it when I get home. This is going to be a good listening session when I get home and start putting these on. This next one, actually, I was shocked was still on the wall. I was hoping it was going to be, but again, vinyl got smiled on me on Saturday. This is Killing Floor on London/Sire Records. Jacket's about a VG, maybe light and VG minus, but the wax plays clean, solid VG plus. Late 60s, early 70s hard rock. It's the best way I can describe it, but it's an absolute banger, and if you can find it out in the wild, definitely pick it up. It's a difficult one to find. Not super expensive, but a difficult one to find. But see this one out in the wild and it's not beat up, grab it. This next one actually has a little bit of a backstory to it. A few weeks before I came up, Dylan decided to upgrade his original self-titled for this band and this album and put them out in the shop. A friend of mine, who he knows who he is, was coming up there anyway, and I had asked him, if I send you some money, would you be willing to grab this for me? He was third in line. First guy grabbed both of them, which I expected. So I was like, okay, well, it is what it is. Well, Dylan had announced that he got these reissues in, and he had got a bunch of them in, but apparently they were limited. So I told myself when I came up here if they were still available, I'd grab one. And they were. 13th Floor Elevators, Easter Everywhere on Charlie Records. This is a 2LP limited edition colored vinyl. Features both the mono and stereo pressings. This will hold me until I can find an original, and it's going to be a while because original pressings are between $300 to $600, and it's not easy to find a VG Plus copy, just like the self-titled. I mean, 13 Floor Elevators really don't need to be introduced. They're psych legends, and their albums are very highly coveted, especially original pressings. And so, great sounding reissue. That's all I need for now. This next album is actually from a band that I'm very okay. They're one of my favorite later bands, and they have an interesting place in music history because two of their members went on to form the '90s Britpop band Oasis. Whether you like them or hate them, everybody knows who Oasis is. They grew up in that time frame. But this is Ride. This is Not a Safe Place. This is their most recent release, I believe from 2019, on colored vinyl. Streamed this album before I bought it. I really liked what I heard. It's not my absolute favorite, but it's one I wanted nonetheless. And it's nice to hear new material from this band. So again, I had to pick it up. These next ones are getting into jazz territory. This is actually an album I've wanted for a while. I've talked about them a little bit, but Slow Vinyl Records out of New Mexico does live claim sales all the time, and they've put this album up for sale a couple times, and I've always missed out on it. So when I saw this in the rack at Noble, I had to have it. This is Wynton Kelly Trio. It's All Right. Again on Verve Records. Features Kenny Burrell, Candido, Paul Chambers, and Jimmy. I always do this. I always get the name. I always forget the last name that I was trying to remember. Paul Chambers, Jimmy Cobb, Kenny Burrell, and Candido. Super clean copy. I mean, look at the jacket's got beautiful gloss on it. Original stereo pressing, Van Gelder stamp. Can't ask for more. Just beautiful copy. So I was definitely happy to get this one. The next one's actually one that Josh found in the racks for me. He told me if I didn't have it, I had to have it. So this is Clifford Brown with Strings on Mercy Records. Features Max Roach on drums, George Morrow on bass, Richie Powell on piano, Barry Gabraith on guitar, and of course Clifford Brown. The best way that it was described to me was basically just an album you want to put on in the background and have a scotch or cook dinner and have this playing in the background. Just really smooth album and super clean wax, and definitely happy to have this. Is the first Clifford Brown album I've ever owned, so it's going to be an interesting listening experience for sure. This next one is one that I've wanted for a while, but I wasn't prepared to buy it on eBay. I wanted to find it in the wild. This is a Phineas Newborn Jr. Here is Phineas, for the piano artistry of Phineas Newborn Jr. on Atlantic Records. First stereo pressing, super clean. I mean, look at you, beautiful gloss on it. All around beautiful copy. And this is one I am definitely gonna enjoy spinning this one. Just piano jazz at its absolute best. A very underappreciated album, actually, as well. This next one is actually not jazz, but it's one I found. It's it's folk rock. It's Miller Anderson, Bright City, on London/Duram Records, and it's actually a former university radio station copy. And what's interesting for this one for me is not necessarily the music itself, but the fact it actually says Savoy Brown at the top. So I'm wondering if that was maybe the DJ or something at the time. It's just one of those anomalies that I don't think any of us will ever figure out what that was about. But great album, and one you can find on the cheap, and again, highly recommend it. Two more and saving the best one for last. This next one actually was the other one that Josh found for me in the racks and said if you don't have it, you need to have it. This is the exciting new organ of Don Patterson with Booker Urban on Prestige Records. This is a first stereo pressing. I'm not too familiar with Don Patterson, but I'm very familiar with Booker Urban. I love his music, and anything that's got Booker Urban on it, I'll always give a shot to. So, and I know Josh wouldn't steer me wrong. So, again, really happy to have this one. The final one was one that I was shocked was still on the wall. And the other thing is the condition on this album just blows me away. This is the Art Blakey's Jazz Messengers with Thelonious Monk. First stereo pressing on Atlantic. You know what? We'll take it out of plastic. You guys need to see this. Even though I hate these sleeves. This album is super, super clean. It's near mint. It just, when I saw this, I couldn't believe how clean this was. Just a little bit of dust, obviously, so it's going to need to be cleaned, but it looks absolutely amazing. I was shocked that it was this clean. This one, I believe, was one of the last remnants of a collection that came from Dylan. If you watch this video, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is part of a collection he bought about 3 or 4 weeks ago from a gentleman who had a massive jazz collection, took really, really good care of it. And all his stuff was beautiful condition. I actually own a couple of them already that Chris at Tunes from the Man Cave helped me out with. But this one was still on the wall, and it's one I've been after for a while. But it's a first pressing, again, on Atlantic. I mean, you can see the gloss through the sleeve. This thing is perfect. No splits, no seams, no problems. Just a beautiful example. And the fact that this album is this old, I believe this one came out in like 61, 62, and it's in this kind of condition, just blows me away. But this one was the big banger out of all of them for Saturday. There is one that I am considering going back and picking up tomorrow. I haven't decided yet, but it's a big one. It's expensive, but it's a big one. And that would take up what's left of my trade credit. So we will see what happens. But that's it for this video, guys. If you liked what you saw, please click like and subscribe. It's been a pleasure sharing these with you. And who knows, maybe I'll do a reveal tomorrow if I pick that grail up. We'll see what happens. But again, you guys have a great night, and we'll talk again soon. Take it easy.